Hello. In the first part of our presentation, we talked about the ways in which we look at language to teach it. Let us now turn to the role of formulaic language in ELT. But first, let's define what we mean by formulaic language. According to a number of different authors, formulaic language can be defined as multi-word units. That is to say, combinations of at least two words favored by native speakers in preference to an alternative combination which would have been equivalent had there been no conventionalization. We are referring to sequences of continuous or discontinuous words, of words or other meaning elements which appear to be prefabricated. That is, they are stored and retrieved from memory at the time of use. That is to say, they are strings glued together. These strings that are glued together in everyday discourse are strings that have become conventionalized in use in a given language, as attested by a native speaker, by the judgment of a native speaker, or by corpus data. So this means that non-native uses of the language are also considered here. We are also considering those strings of words that are recurrent in certain texts, especially when we are teaching English. According to different authors, the term formulaic language can be found in bibliography in different ways, as formulaic sequences, chunks, bundles, conventionalized forms, fixed expressions, formulas, formulae, hollow phrases, lexical phrases, and many other ways of naming these terms. Hatami refers to the reason why formulaic language is so widespread. He says that in order for formulaic language to be so widespread, it needs to have some useful purpose in communication. The author identifies 5 main reasons why people use formulaic language. The first one is expressing a message or idea, as in the case of the phrase, "the early bird gets the worm." The second one is realizing functions. Most of the functions that we use in everyday life are based on formulaic language. The third one is the fact that formulaic language is used to express social solidarity. Many of the phrases that we use to express emotions, feelings, attitudes are based on prefabricated chunks. Also, prefabricated chunks are used for transacting specific information, especially in very specific contexts. And finally, lexicalized items are very much used to signal discourse organization, as is the case with many discourse features, such as discourse markers. Let us now analyze this extract from a textbook used to teach English to kids. The textbook in question is Join Us, written by Gerngross and Puchta. What bits of language constitute chunks? Can you describe them? Are they fillers, functions? What kind of lexicalized items are they? What communicative purpose do they hold? Stop the video for a minute and think. You're likely to have found a wide variety of different types of lexicalized items with different functions and different communicative purposes, all of them responding to Hatami's description. This is just an example of the ways in which lexicalized items are used in everyday life in everyday language use, but also in the ways in which we are thinking of language in order to teach it, and how this is realized in teaching materials. Our analysis of language has important implications for teaching. The first one is that vocabulary and grammar should be taught and learned together. When teaching vocabulary, teachers need to consider grammatical choices and environments for the words, as well as when teaching grammar, they need to consider meaningful contexts and typical lexical combinations. Another important implication is that when we learn a new word, we have to learn some grammatical information about it, and we need to connect words to their networks. That's fundamental. Pinter is conclusive when she says that vocabulary and grammar are difficult to divide into two distinct areas, because lexical choice is always dependent on grammar. So when children learn their first chunks of language, these often combined with grammatical patterns and lexis. Pinter is very clear when she says that younger children, in particular, are not ready for or interested in thinking about language as a language system or manipulating the language so as to separate lexical items from grammatical ones. This is key in her thought and key for our task as teachers of English. What are children interested in? Well, they are interested in the meaning and function of new language more holistically, in order to play a game, to sing a song, or to act out a story. As they grow older, Pinter says, they will develop an awareness on the linguistic system.